Hi, I just wanted to start off with a lovely virtual hello to all of you tuning into this video. My name is Chandra Giroux, and I am an alumna and now the manager of the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program. And I'm very excited to be talking to you about this program today. I'll be referring to the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program as RPL for most of this video. You'll see that the Government of Canada loves its acronyms, and I have fully embraced that part of working for the public service. The federal public service is constantly looking for new talent, expertise, and experience. In response to this, RPL aims to bring a diversity of skills, expertise, and professional experiences to the Canadian government. I'm going to assume that if you made your way to this video, that you are someone who is already working in the Government of Canada and knows a little bit about RPL, or that you are contemplating making a move into the federal public service and see RPL as a potential conduit. So for those who are thinking about joining the Government of Canada, I wanted to take a brief moment to outline some of the benefits of joining the GOC, as we tend to call it. There are many benefits to a GOC career, including flexibility. This is what I see as one of the best parts of working for the government. The federal public service is the largest employer in the country with over 300,000 employees. This means that there are an incredible number of different kinds of jobs and different files that you can be part of. And once you're in the GOC, it's easier to move around at level to explore those opportunities. Some of the exciting files and complex challenges that RPL alumni are working on include climate change, public health, economic recovery, emerging technology, AI, foreign policy, national security and defense, and reconciliation. And while the majority of public policy leadership roles in the Canadian federal government are located in Ottawa, there are some opportunities in the regions, though we are seeing a bit less of that this year, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. For those who are less familiar with RPL, let's take a moment to discuss the program. The Recruitment of Policy Leaders program is the federal government's flagship annual recruitment program that's been running for over 20 years. It recognizes the unique academic, professional, and lived experiences of applicants, and is therefore able to place candidates at a more intermediate or senior level than other recruitment programs. Note, however, a very important distinction between RPL and some other postgraduate recruitment programs, which is that RPL is not a developmental program. What I mean by that is that there are other postgraduate recruitment campaigns that bring in new recruits at a junior level and train them for 2 to 3 years to a mid-level policy analyst. RPL, on the other hand, forms a pool where candidates are considered to be qualified from that mid-level to a more senior level policy position. Unlike the developmental programs, RPL candidates are placed immediately in their positions, and there's no training associated with the program itself. However, as I will discuss in a moment, there are many fantastic networking and professional development opportunities associated with RPL. RPL, like some other postgraduate recruitment programs, also inverts the typical hiring process, where most of the time, if you're looking at positions on jobs.gc.ca, you'll find a position that is posted where they're trying to find the right candidate. RPL instead looks for exceptional people first, then connects them with job opportunities that match their background, interests, and expertise. The starting level of each RPL candidate will depend on their unique combination of academic, professional, and personal experiences, including whether they have significant experience managing teams, projects, budgets, etc., as well as their abilities in both official languages. It's important to note that while being bilingual in English and French is not a requirement to apply for RPL, that it is an important aspect of career progression in the federal government. For example, all managers in the public service must be able to communicate in English and French. So why should you apply for RPL specifically? Well, RPL, as I've already mentioned, gives you immediate recognition of your talent and experience. RPL candidates start at a more senior level than most other postgraduate recruitment programs. You can also apply for RPL at any point in your career, so if you don't make it in the first time that you try, just keep on trying. And what I find is the best part of this program is the network. The RPL community is a strong one, and you'll feel that right away if you're accepted into the pool, because you'll get mentorship support to help you explore career options. This is particularly important for those joining from the outside, like I did, because your mentor will have a better idea of potential opportunities that you might not have considered or potentially known about as someone from the outside. I encourage everyone who applies and makes it into the program to consider meeting with a variety of departments and to keep your mind open about different kinds of files to find the best fit for you. The more open you are, the better chance you'll have of finding an interesting position that you may or may not have considered otherwise. Importantly, again, if you're someone from the outside who has not experienced government work, the Government of Canada offers a lot of opportunities for at-level mobility. And what I mean by that is the chance to move to different teams, different files, and different departments at your level. The RPL community also has regular social events, and offers professional development activities within the network, which is run by alumni volunteers. So once you're into the pool, even though we're not a developmental program, you'll have lots of opportunities to connect. So what does a successful RPL candidate look like, and what happens when you make it into the pool? RPLers come from all fields and backgrounds. For example, I'm an ancient historian and archaeologist, and the manager before me was a specialist in space law. So don't think that because you didn't specialize in international trade or public policy or politics that you can't be admitted into RPL. Once you make it into the pool, you are qualified for approximately 2.5 years. That means that your profile goes up onto the internal GCpedia page, where hiring managers can read your bio, learn about you, and approach you for potential job opportunities. The 2.5 years also means that you can wrap up your studies or current employment before transitioning to the federal public service. As I mentioned before, you will receive mentorship support to help identify the kinds of opportunities that might appeal to you by setting up meetings with hiring managers. In these meetings, it is up to you to advocate for your skills, experience, and relevant expertise to find that best match. It also means that you have the chance to potentially explore careers in your field within government, or you can and should take meetings that are outside of your usual scope to see what else exists and to consider reinventing what you do to take on new challenges. Getting into RPL does not mean a guaranteed job, and that's another reason why I encourage people to be open and have those conversations, because you never know what cool thing or what interesting people are around a corner that you would not normally explore. To be eligible for the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program, there are 4 main things that you need. First, we are a postgraduate recruitment program, which means that you need a master's degree or a PhD or a law degree plus an undergraduate degree in any discipline. As part of the screening process, you'll be asked to outline your experiences in 3 fields. The first is policy relevant experience. This is experience that is relevant to public policy acquired through any context: NGOs, think tanks, government, academia, consulting, private sector, you name it. What matters most is that you demonstrate how that prior experience is relevant to policy and allows you to gain an in-depth knowledge of policy issues as well as develop policy recommendations. One of the best pieces of advice that I heard when tackling this field when you apply is to think about the times when you problem solved, because that is essentially what policy is about: defining a problem, researching it to better understand it, and developing potential pathways forward that can consider risks and mitigation measures of each option. You will also be asked to outline your leadership and initiative. You can, for example, provide evidence of leadership and service through extracurricular activities and volunteer initiatives in community or academic organizations. Or you can discuss instances where you made significant contributions to the well-being of others or overcame adversity to realize positive change or to deliver results. Lastly, we ask you to tell us about your research achievements. To get into RPL, you must have a record of significant achievements in academic or other research contexts. You can demonstrate this through scholarships and publications, or through non-academic contexts like the development of analyses, reports, research tools, datasets, IP, new technology, or products or innovations that have been used by other researchers, industry, communities, or public, nonprofit, or Indigenous organizations. You'll notice on the right-hand side of the slide that there's a list of some of the competencies that are assessed throughout the different steps of the recruitment process. This list is non-exhaustive, but it includes some of the important knowledge and skills that we're looking for. Finally, it's important to note that all Canadians, permanent residents, and persons residing in Canada can apply to RPL. However, preference is given to veterans first, followed by Canadian citizens and permanent residents, except for positions in Nunavut, where Inuit must be nominated first. In the past, the RPL pool has been filled by Canadian citizens and permanent residents. You are still welcome to apply if you're a person residing in Canada, but please let us know if your status changes. So what's actually involved in the application process to get from clicking on apply now to your bio being put on the GCpedia page? The steps in the evaluation process are similar to other Government of Canada processes in that you must submit an application, and if that application is successful, you move on to the written exam. If you pass that, we invite you to an interview, and success in the interview then means reference and documents checks. Since we are currently in the initial application stage, I'm going to focus on that. For the initial application, you need to respond to the pre-selection questions that we talked about on the previous slide, which is policy relevant experience, leadership and initiative, and research achievement, as well as indicate that you have a postgraduate degree or will have one by December 2025. We ask you to highlight and clearly demonstrate to us how you meet each of those selection criteria. More information on it will be included in the application portal when you apply. The written exam takes place sometime in the new year, and we are still finalizing the format of that exam, but all information required to complete this assignment will be provided to candidates who are invited to write it. The RPL interview is actually quite unique and different from the usual government interview. The panel includes both alumni as well as senior executives in the Government of Canada. It is a dynamic pace where you can expect to discuss a broad array of policy issues and where your ideas will be challenged and questioned. If you pass the interview, references of successful candidates will be contacted to provide additional information on certain skills. The Government of Canada is committing to making the public service more reflective of the Canadian public that it serves. RPL is taking steps towards helping to build a more equitable, diverse, and inclusive federal public service in the context of postgraduate recruitment. We encourage you to self-declare in your application if you belong to one or more employment equity groups, which includes Indigenous peoples, persons living with disabilities, members of racialized communities, and women. The federal public service appreciates the important perspective and lived experiences that these underrepresented groups bring to policy leadership in Canada. It's also important to note that the self-declaration process is voluntary and confidential, and that it provides data that helps to remove barriers to employment. Do not hesitate to let us know if you need assessment accommodations. These help to remove obstacles from the selection process to best help you succeed. You can request these at any point, but we encourage you to be proactive and to get in touch as early as possible. In terms of employment equity, RPL is actively seeking applications from First Nations, Métis, and Inuit candidates, as well as persons living with a disability. To encourage and support applications from these groups, the 2024-25 RPL campaign has 3 application streams. There's the general stream, that is open to anyone who is eligible to apply for RPL, the Indigenous stream, which is open to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit, and the Persons with Disabilities stream, which is open to anyone who self-identifies as living with a disability. However, applicants should only apply through one window. If you apply to more than one window, you will only be assessed once. To finish, I want to point out that RPL is very competitive. We receive approximately 2,000 applications every year and have about 1 to 2% success rate. Applicants are encouraged to self-assess whether they would be a good fit for the program. Be sure to clearly explain how you meet each criteria and provide the necessary information for screeners to be able to assess elements that they may not be familiar with. For example, if you received a specialized research grant or a very competitive scholarship that may not be well known outside of your field, provide details on the granting body, the selection process, and the competitiveness of the award. Don't forget to also think about the impact of the experiences and clearly outline this for reviewers. If you'd like to learn more or just to keep up with all things RPL, I encourage you to visit any of the sites that are listed there, and I highly recommend that you attend a Q&A session. In these sessions, RPL alumni will speak about their experiences going through the RPL application process and answer any questions that you have live. This is a great way to connect with those who have successfully been through the process and who can give you their best tips and tricks to succeed. There will also be sessions devoted to Indigenous candidates and persons with disabilities, hosted by panelists who came through those streams. Thank you for taking the time to listen in. I wish you the best of luck in your applications.